I didn't cry when I realized my parents had left me behind. That part still messes with people when I say it out loud. They expect tears. Screaming. A breakdown straight out of a movie. But when you're 13 and your heart finally snaps, it doesn't always shatter loud. Sometimes it just goes quiet. Real quiet. So quiet you can hear your own breathing echo in a house that suddenly doesn't feel like home anymore. The turkey sat on the marble counter like a brick of ice, 20 pounds, solid, sweating frost into the air like it was mocking me. The heater had been busted all week. Mom said she'd call someone after the holidays. That was her favorite line. After the holidays, after the trip, after we relax. My breath came out in little white clouds. I wrapped my arms around myself and stared at that frozen bird like it had personally offended me. Then my phone buzzed. Not a call. Not a "hey, are you okay?" Not even a fake apology. A group chat notification. Holiday Bliss, yeah. That was the name. The photo loaded slow, like the universe wanted to make sure I really saw it. My mom, perfect hair, champagne flute raised, smiling like she'd just escaped prison. My dad beside her, relaxed, tan, wearing that stupid linen shirt he only wore on vacations. And behind them, my twin sisters, already in oversized sunglasses, clinking glasses in what was very clearly a first-class airplane cabin. The caption hit harder than the cold. Finally, some peace. Then another message popped up. Boarding now. See you in 10 days. Alarm is set. Don't wait up. I read it 3 times. 10 days. They were gone for 10 days, and they hadn't bought me a ticket. I stood there, phone in my hand, staring at a turkey I didn't know how to cook in a house I didn't know how to protect. I was 13. I didn't know how to fix a furnace. Didn't know how to pay a bill. Didn't know how to survive alone. But apparently, I wasn't worth a plain seat. I didn't text back. Didn't ask why. Didn't beg. Something inside me clicked into place instead. That's when I learned a lesson that took most adults decades to understand. Family is just a word people use when it's convenient. And right then, I wasn't convenient. The house felt heavier without them. Like it was pressing in on me, daring me to break. The silence rang so loud my ears buzzed. I opened the freezer. Everything was frozen solid, like the house itself had given up. I grabbed a burrito buried in the back. Frostbitten. Ancient. But it was food. I shoved it into the microwave and hit start. The hum filled the kitchen. For a second, it felt normal. Then, pop, the microwave died. The lights flickered once, then vanished. The fridge groaned and went silent. Power out. Just like that, the kitchen dropped into pitch black darkness. The cold rushed in fast, like it had been waiting. I stood there frozen, not scared, not crying, just thinking. I had a coat, I had blankets. I could stay in one room. I could survive the night. That's when headlights sliced across the window. 2 sharp beams cut through the darkness, lighting up dust in the air like floating ghosts. A car. Pulling into the driveway. For one stupid second, hope flared. Maybe they came back. Maybe someone realized leaving a kid alone was messed up. I ran to the window. It wasn't our car. It was a massive black SUV, idling low like a predator waiting to strike. A man stepped out, prod, wearing a heavy wool coat that screamed money without trying. He didn't rush. He didn't hesitate. He walked like the ground belonged to him. The knock came next. Heavy, final, no doorbell, no power, just a knock that echoed through the entire house. I opened the door. I knew his face instantly. Uncle Robert. The family ghost. The man my dad called soulless, and my mom warned was dangerous. He didn't hug me. Didn't smile. Didn't even say hello. He looked at me. Really looked. My shaking hands. The dark house. The cold breath fogging the air. Then he glanced past me into the empty hallway. They remembered to set the alarm, he said calmly, but forgot to pay the electric bill. He stepped inside without asking. Pulled off a leather glove. Checked his watch. Pack a bag. Alyssa, my voice came out small. Where are we going? Away from here. Upstairs. I packed fast. No toys. No photos. No memories. Just clothes, school books, my laptop. 4 minutes. When I came back down, he was staring at the frozen turkey. Leave it, he said. Let it rot. It fits. I followed him into the SUV. Warm air. Leather seats. Silence that felt safe. As we pulled away, I watched my childhood home disappear into the dark. I didn't know it yet. But that was the night I crossed a line. The night I stopped being the forgotten kid. And became something else entirely. I thought being taken in meant healing. That's the lie movies sell you. Warm kitchens, gentle talks. Someone finally saying, "You're safe now." Yeah, no. Living with my uncle wasn't about comfort. It was about reprogramming. His house didn't sit on land. It dominated it. A brutal slab of concrete and glass perched on the edge of a cliff, staring down the ocean like it dared the waves to try something stupid. No white picket fences, no cozy porch, no family photos smiling from the walls. This place didn't whisper welcome. It warned you to behave. The silence inside wasn't empty like my parents' house. It was intentional, controlled. Thick, the kind of silence that made you straighten your posture without realizing it. For the first few months, I became invisible. I was good at that. I walked soft, ate fast, cleaned everything I touched like I was erasing evidence of my existence. I stayed in the guest room unless told otherwise. I thought that was the deal. You don't complain. You don't take up space. You don't get sent back. One night, I was sitting on the floor of his massive library, tucked behind a shelf, watching him work. I didn't mean to spy. I just didn't know where I was allowed to exist. He was at his desk, papers spread out like a battlefield. No TV, no music, just the sound of pen against paper. Then his voice cut through the room. "You're doing it again." My heart dropped. I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't mean." "You think silence makes you small," he said without looking up. "You think if you disappear, you won't be a problem." He finally looked at me. Those eyes weren't cruel. They were worse. They were calculating. "Silence isn't weakness," he said. "Silence is data." He waved me over. On his desk was a blueprint, huge, detailed, intimidating. "Tell me what's wrong with it?" I froze. "I don't know anything about Lee," he said calmly. "Look." So I did, and something weird happened. My brain lit up. "The receptionist will be blinded by afternoon sun," I said slowly. "The elevators are too far from the entrance. People will clog the center. Traffic flow is inefficient." He smiled, not warm, not proud, sharp. "Exactly." He leaned back. "Your family ignored you, treated you like furniture, but while they were busy posing for pictures, you were studying the room." That's when it clicked. I wasn't broken. I was trained. "You noticed what others didn't," he continued. "That makes you dangerous." From that moment on, everything changed. He didn't give me therapy, he gave me tools. Books on negotiation, structural design, contract law, behavioral psychology. He taught me that buildings weren't about beauty, they were about control. "If you shape the environment," he said, "you shape the people inside it." My teenage years weren't dances and football games, they were site visits and boardrooms. I sat in corners watching grown men lie with straight faces. Watching who folded first. Watching who pretended not to care. I stopped checking my phone. Stopped hoping for messages from my mother. Their vacation photos didn't hurt anymore. They looked fake. By 16, I understood leverage better than most adults. But then came the lesson that sealed everything. I asked him for a desk. Mine wobbled. Bad lighting. Impossible to work. "How much?" he asked. $800, I said. He slid me a check. $5,000. "I don't want you to buy furniture," he said. "I want you to build a sanctuary." That word stuck. Sanctuary. "Your family made you feel unsafe in your own home," he said. "Build a place where you hold authority." I spent 3 months obsessed. Ripped out carpet. Exposed concrete. Dark walls that swallowed light. Custom steel desk frame. Soundproofing. It wasn't pretty. It was powerful. When he inspected it, he nodded once. That nod meant more than love ever had. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with ghosts. Aspen. Paris, Bahamas. Thinking of you. Lies wrapped in emojis. But sitting in that room, I realized something huge. They didn't break me. They released me. I wasn't abandoned. I was freed. And the world had no idea what it had just created. Here's the funny thing about power. When you're growing up without it, you think it's loud, flashy, mean. You think it kicks doors down and announces itself. That's a lie. Real power moves quiet. It watches. It waits. And by the time you notice it, it's already standing behind you. By 17, My life didn't look anything like the one my parents imagined for me. Assuming they ever imagined me at all. While kids my age were worrying about prom dates and SAT scores, I was sitting in rooms where men twice my age argued over millions of dollars like it was lunch money. I didn't speak unless asked. But when I did, the room listened. Uncle Robert called it presence calibration. People show you who they are when they think you're harmless. He said, your job is to let them believe that, right up until the moment it costs them. I graduated high school early, no ceremony, no balloons, no awkward hugs, just a signature and a closed chapter. College came next, architecture. Robert didn't say, I'm proud of you. He said, this is an investment. And I treated it like one. I slept less than everyone else, studied harder, observed more. While classmates chased aesthetics, I chased function. How space controlled movement. How light influenced mood. How people behaved when they thought no one important was watching. Professors noticed. They didn't know what to do with me. I wasn't loud, wasn't charming, wasn't eager to please. But my designs worked. Every time. By 24, I started my own firm. No big announcement. No champagne launch. Just a name on paper and a plan that didn't leave room for failure. Clients trusted me because I didn't sell dreams. I sold certainty. By 28, my designs were shaping skylines. That's when Uncle Robert started slowing down. He didn't complain, didn't dramatize it. He just concluded. Structural failure, he said once, tapping his chest. Beyond repair. He refused the hospital, chose his bedroom overlooking the ocean. 2 days before he died, he called me in. There was an envelope on the nightstand. Thick. Sealed. Don't open this, he said. Not until the reading. I won't. They'll come back, he said calmly. The second I'm gone, they'll smell money. He grabbed my wrist. Stronger than he looked. They think you're nothing, he said. Let them. He died early Tuesday morning. Efficient. Clean. I didn't cry. I secured the perimeter. The funeral was supposed to be private. It wasn't. 3 limos showed up like clockwork. Rented. I recognized the plates. My parents stepped out dressed in grief like it was designer wear. My sisters live-streamed their tears. They walked past me like I didn't exist. Same as always. At the graveside, I heard my mother whisper. Thank God he never married. They weren't mourning. They were budgeting. After the service, they cornered me. Not a hug. Not a question. We'll take it from here? My mother said. Do you have the keys? That's when I realized something terrifyingly clear. For them to feel important, I had to stay small. And they were starving. I told them the house was sealed. They didn't like that. The next day, we met at the law firm. They sat on one side of the table. I sat alone. They scrolled real estate listings, already spending money they didn't have. The lawyer entered. No briefcase, just a thin folder. That should have been their first warning. The will was short, precise. To my father forgiven debt. To my mother silence. To me everything. The room exploded. Accusations, screaming threats. Then the lawyer slid a document across the table. Dated 15 years earlier. December 24th. The frozen turkey night. Alone. Collateral me. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd sold me. $500,000. That was my price. They didn't even look ashamed. We did what we had to, my father said. I stood. You got paid, I said calmly. The transaction is complete. They screamed. Threatened lawsuits. I walked out. They tried to follow. Security stopped them. At the cliffside house, they tried one last time. I had them removed. And when the gate closed behind them, I felt it. Not relief. Closure. I deleted their numbers, blocked their emails. I dismantled the connection like a bad design. Clean. Final. That night, alone in that concrete fortress, I stood in silence. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. People think the hardest part of success is getting there. Wrong. The hardest part is what comes after. When the world finally notices you. And starts testing whether you actually deserve the space you've taken. After the will reading, things got loud. Not screaming loud, legal loud. My parents didn't mourn. They mobilized. Lawyers started calling. Letters arrived. Thick, aggressive, full of words like contest, coercion, and undue influence. I didn't panic. I'd been raised inside boardrooms. I spoke their language. Uncle Robert didn't leave emotions behind. He left infrastructure. The estate was airtight. Every document cross-referenced. Every clause anticipating their next move. They weren't fighting me. They were fighting a structure designed by a man who hated inefficiency. And structures always win, but here's what no one tells you. When you step into power, people stop seeing you as human. Clients suddenly wanted access, investors wanted partnerships. Old acquaintances crawled out of the woodwork acting like we'd always been close. And somewhere in all that noise, I felt something crack. I'd built my life on control. But control doesn't teach you how to feel. Late one night, standing alone in the house, I realized something terrifying. I had everything. And no one. That's when the first real test came. A developer tried to corner me. Massive payout. But the design, unsafe, rushed, built to fail. Sign it, he said. No one will notice. I saw it immediately, a structural flaw hidden behind aesthetics. The same kind of flaw my parents lived with their whole lives. I walked away. The deal died. People whispered, she's difficult. She's cold. She doesn't play nice. Good. Then the lawsuit hit. My father filed it himself. Claimed emotional damage, claimed manipulation. Claimed I stole what belonged to him. We went to court. I didn't look at him. Didn't need to. The judge dismissed it in under 20 minutes. When the gavel fell, something inside me finally relaxed. Not because I won, but because it was over. After that, my firm exploded. Integrity attracts serious players. The right clients found me. The ones who wanted things built to last. Years passed. I redesigned cities. Trained protégés. Built a reputation that couldn't be shaken. Sometimes, late at night, I still heard that frozen house. Still remembered the cold. Then one evening, standing in the library where it all started, I understood the final lesson Uncle Robert left me. Power isn't revenge. It's choice. I chose not to destroy them. I chose not to become them. I chose to build. And that choice, that's what made me untouchable. I used to think strength meant never needing anyone. That's what survival taught me. You don't lean, you don't trust. You don't wait for someone to show up. Because they won't. Or worse, they will, and they'll invoice you for it later. By 32, my firm had offices in 3 cities. My name carried weight. When I walked into a room, conversations adjusted. People recalibrated. I had mastered space. But I still hadn't mastered connection. And that became obvious the night I stood in a penthouse I had just designed. Floor to ceiling glass, skyline glowing like a promise. And realized I had no one to call to see it. No one who wasn't on payroll. That silence hit different. Not cold like my childhood house. Empty. That's when the email came. Subject line: Youth Transitional Housing Proposal. Normally I would have delegated it. But something about the wording made me open it. A nonprofit wanted an architect to redesign a facility for teens aging out of foster care. Limited budget. High impact. Emotionally heavy. I almost said no. Emotion was inefficient. Then I saw the photos attached. Metal beds. Peeling paint. Fluorescent lighting that made everything look exhausted. I saw 13-year-old me in those images. And for the first time in years, something inside my chest moved. I took the meeting. The director was a woman in her late 40s. Sharp eyes, no nonsense. She didn't flatter me. Didn't beg. She said, "These kids don't need pretty, they need stable." That word again. Stable. I walked through the existing building 2 days later. The hallways were narrow. Corners sharp. Lighting harsh. Doors thin. It felt temporary. Disposable. I ran my hand along a cracked wall and thought, this is what it feels like when no one plans for you to stay. I didn't design something flashy. I widened corridors, softened transitions, added warm but indirect lighting, created private study pods that felt like ownership instead of containment. I built common spaces that allowed visibility without exposure. Safety without surveillance. When the renovation was complete, I attended the reopening quietly. No press. No announcement. A girl, maybe 14, walked into one of the redesigned bedrooms. She set her backpack down slowly, like she wasn't sure it was really hers. She looked around. Then she closed the door gently, and locked it. The click echoed through me. That sound. That same sound I'd made years ago, locking the cliffside house. But this time, it wasn't about shutting people out. It was about letting someone feel secure. That night, I sat alone in my office and cried for the first time since I was 13. Not loud, not dramatic, just release. Because I finally understood something Uncle Robert never said out loud. Building isn't about control. It's about protection. Weeks later, I got a handwritten letter from that same girl. She wrote, "It's the first room that feels like it won't disappear." I folded that letter and placed it in the envelope he left me years ago. The demolition order. Except now I understood it wasn't about tearing others down. It was about demolishing the lie that I had to be alone to be strong. Success stopped feeling sharp after that. It felt steady. I started mentoring young architects, not just teaching structure, but ethics. I made sure my firm had pro bono divisions, scholarship programs, infrastructure for people who never had any. And slowly, almost without noticing, my world expanded, not with noise, with meaning. One evening, standing on the cliffside balcony, I realized something wild. I had built the life they tried to sell. And it didn't own me. The girl in the frozen kitchen survived. But the woman I became, she chose who she let inside. And that made all the difference. You think the past only shows up when you invite it. That's another lie. Sometimes it comes knocking when you're finally at peace. Just to see if it still owns you. It was a random Tuesday. No bad omens. No dramatic music. Just an assistant hovering in my doorway with that look. "Someone's here to see you," she said carefully. They didn't have an appointment. I already knew. Some instincts never leave you. "Ooh," I asked, even though my chest had tightened. "Your mother." I didn't move. Didn't breathe. After all the lawsuits failed. After the silence. After the years. She showed up now. "Tell her I'm unavailable," I said. My assistant hesitated. She said she doesn't want anything. That almost made me laugh. Nothing is still something. I stood, smoothed my jacket. 5 minutes, I said. Conference room B. She walked in smaller than I remembered. No designer sunglasses. No dramatic entrance. Just a woman who looked worn. She didn't sit until I did. "I'm not here to fight," she said quickly. "I know you don't owe me anything." "Good start. I just wanted to see you," she continued. "To know you're okay." I studied her like a blueprint. New cracks. Old damage. "You know I am," I said. "You've known for years." She nodded. Tears pooled. "I was wrong," she whispered. "About everything." I waited. She looked surprised by that. "You don't want to hear me say it." "I want to hear the truth," I said. "Not comfort." She swallowed. "We didn't think you'd become this," she admitted. "We thought you'd need us again." There it was. Not love. Relevance. "I didn't come for money," she said quickly. "I swear." "I know," I replied. "You came for absolution." That broke her. "I just want you to forgive me." I leaned back. For years, forgiveness felt like something people demanded from the injured to make themselves feel clean. But forgiveness isn't a gift. It's a decision. "I don't hate you," I said honestly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean access." Her face crumpled. "I lost my daughter," she whispered. "No," I corrected calmly. "You traded her." Silence filled the room. Finally, she stood. "I hope you're happy," she said. I met her eyes. "I am," I said. "And that's the part you don't get to take credit for." She left without another word. I didn't feel victory. I felt completion. That night, I walked through the cliffside house, touching walls I had chosen to keep. Some structures deserve preservation, others need demolition, and I had learned the difference. You ever wake up and realize you're not surviving anymore? You're leading. That shift is subtle. No fireworks, no theme music. Just one quiet morning when you look in the mirror and don't see the abandoned kid staring back. You see the architect. After my mother's visit, something settled inside me. Not anger, not sadness. Closure. For years, part of me operated like I was still proving something. Proving I wasn't disposable. Proving I was worth the investment. But the truth, I'd already won the moment I stopped needing them to see it. That's when I expanded the firm. Not bigger for ego, bigger for impact. We launched a division focused entirely on adaptive housing, homes designed for kids aging out of unstable systems. Not shelters, not halfway solutions, permanent structures. Ownership focused. Because I knew firsthand what temporary felt like. I hired young designers who didn't come from connections or privilege. I trained them the way Robert trained me. Direct, sharp, honest. You're not here to impress? I'd tell them. You're here to build something that outlives you. Some stayed. Some couldn't handle it. That was fine. Not everyone is built for foundations. One evening, after presenting a city redevelopment plan, a reporter asked me a question that almost made me laugh. Do you feel like you've replaced the family you lost? Replace? I thought about that frozen kitchen. About a girl calculating how to survive the night. I didn't replace anything? I answered. I built something new. Because that's the part people miss. Family isn't always blood, it's alignment. Trust. Shared structure. I had that now. A team that would call me out if I was wrong. Colleagues who didn't fear me. They respected me. People who showed up because they believed in the work, not the inheritance. One of my protégés, Maya, knocked on my office door late one night. She was brilliant, rough around the edges. Reminded me of myself at 16. Why did you really take the nonprofit project years ago? She asked. I could have given a polished answer. Instead, I told her the truth. Because I know what it feels like to not belong anywhere. She nodded slowly. You built belonging, she said. That stuck. Maybe that was the legacy. Not skyscrapers. Not wealth, belonging. Months later, we opened our largest youth housing development yet. A full campus. Sunlit courtyards, private rooms, study labs, community kitchens. During the ribbon cutting, I stepped back from the cameras, watched the kids walk in, laughing, running, claiming space. And for a split second, I imagined 13-year-old me standing among them. Cold, silent, watching. I wanted to tell her something. You weren't unwanted. You were underestimated. There's a difference. That night, alone at the cliffside house, I opened the envelope Robert had left me years ago. The one labeled demolition order. Inside was a single handwritten note I hadn't noticed before. Strength without purpose is just defense. Find purpose. I smiled. He'd known I would. The ocean crashed below the balcony, steady and relentless. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was guarding my life. I felt like I was expanding it. They tried to sell me. They thought I'd shrink. Instead, I became something they couldn't control. Something they couldn't predict. Something they couldn't buy back. I became the architect of my own legacy, and the best part, I built it to last. People think the end of a story is when everything goes quiet. But the real ending, it's when the noise finally stops mattering. Years after the lawsuits. After the silence. After the doors I chose to close stayed closed. I stood alone in the cliffside house one last time. Not because I was running, because I was done guarding it. The house had served its purpose. It had been my fortress, my training ground, my proof. But a structure built for defense will eventually start feeling like a cage. I walked through the room slowly, touching the walls the way you touch something you've outgrown but still respect. The library where I learned how power actually works. The dining table where I negotiated my first real deal. The balcony where I learned the difference between isolation and peace. Then I walked to the front door, the same heavy door I once locked with shaking hands. I turned the lock. Click. This time I opened it. I didn't sell the house. I donated it. Converted it into a leadership retreat for young women aging out of unstable homes, future architects, engineers, planners. Girls who needed to learn what I learned early. You don't wait for permission to take up space. You design the space yourself. At the opening, one of the girls asked me, "Did someone save you?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "I built myself." She smiled like she understood. And maybe she did. That night, back in my own place, warm, lived in, intentional, I cooked a turkey. Not frozen. Not symbolic. Just dinner. I sat down alone and ate in peace. I thought about my parents, not with anger, not with forgiveness, but with neutrality. They were a bad design, and bad designs fail. That wasn't my fault. I didn't inherit their damage. I corrected it. I closed my laptop and deleted the last digital trace of them, old emails I'd never opened, drafts that never sent. Click. Just like that. The final lock. I stepped onto the balcony and looked out over the city skyline. Buildings I had shaped, lives I had touched, futures I had stabilized. I wasn't the girl in the frozen kitchen anymore. I wasn't the abandoned niece. I wasn't collateral. I was the architect. And everything I built after that night, it stood. If you've ever been left behind, if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever had to build your own safety from scratch, remember this. You weren't unwanted. You were unplanned for. And that means you get to design your life any way you choose. Comment below if this story hit you. Subscribe for more real stories about power, survival, and becoming untouchable.